fighter has the highest fight IQ?
I don't think there's nobody in the game that has the fight IQ that I have.
Off the charts.
His fucking IQ
The
is
highest
insane.
fight IQ maybe ever.
This guy hits hard. He's tough. He's this, he's that. And this guy has a dream. But my fight IQ will win this fight.
Welcome to the Fight IQ podcast. I'm back again today playing matchmaker. I got some really good ones for you guys, I think, following this UFC Macau card. It's a little weird. The matchups on this card were weird, especially the main event. They did such a weird job with making this fight where it's kind of like leaves the winner in a weird situation where, you know, it kind of seemed like this is a number one contender fight, but then after it was over, you're like, okay, well, Jan already lost to Merab, so what does he get the rematch with Merab? And then if Figgy was to win, I thought he would have been the number one contender, but they put this in a weird spot where since Jan won, it's kind of like, okay, now we don't have a clear number one contender for the title. I guess you do Umar now, but whatever. This is why I was saying from the beginning you should have done Figgy versus Umar for the number one contender, then we would have had a clear guy. Because with Jan winning now and already having a loss to Merab, it's kind of weird up at the top there. So I think the best matchup you can make for him right now is the rematch with Sean O'Malley. I think that's the best fight. The first fight was really, really close, super entertaining. I think the second one, we see one of them get a finish. I think with them having fought each other already, they can make the reads a little bit quicker and have another really, really fun fight. And that will actually have some title implications. Both of them having lost to the current champion. If one of them has a good performance, now we can start talking about a rematch with Merab. Now, down to the next fighter from the card. Deiveson Figueiredo. I thought he had a good performance. I just think he didn't throw enough volume, which makes sense. I mean, Jan's counter-striking is so good. It makes sense that you wouldn't want to just bum rush forward and throw a bunch of volume. Not saying that Deiveson Figueiredo rushes forward with, like, not clean strikes, but he's there to be countered when he kind of pushes the pace a little too hard. I think at flyweight, we saw guys not being able to really keep up with his strength and power when he pressured like that. Up at bantamweight, it's a little bit different of a game. I think Figgy's got to be a little bit more patient. And he was in this Jan fight. Unfortunately, Jan was able to get done a bit more than Figgy here. But my next matchup for him, and the other guys didn't like this matchup, but I'm going to explain to you why I like this matchup. Jose Aldo. We got two former champions from other divisions. They both have done really, really well in bantamweight, but now both have losses in the division. You know, Andrew and Martin were saying they don't like this matchup. They want to see Jose Aldo have a fun fight against Dominic Cruz. And I don't like that because once you start... Listen, Jose Aldo has done really well in the bantamweight division, and I still think he matches up well against a lot of the guys in the top division who he hasn't fought yet. He hasn't fought Sandhagen. He hasn't fought O'Malley. He hasn't fought Umar. You know what I mean? He had a fight with Merab, but did the best in terms of anybody, in terms of defending takedowns. So in my mind, I still want to see Aldo in the title picture if he can get one or two good wins. For me, this is that winnable fight for him. I think Deiveson Figueiredo could be a fun matchup, but it's winnable for both of them and can put them right back in that title contention. You know, Martin and Andrew were saying they want to see Aldo versus Dominic Cruz for Dominic Cruz's retirement fight. I don't like that. If you make that matchup, you're automatically saying that Jose Aldo is in those talks of like a fighter who should be retiring soon. I don't like it. I like this matchup a lot better. And I know a lot of people are saying as well, oh, well, why don't you do Figgy versus Cejudo? Well, they've trained together. Cejudo is probably breaking down his entire game, having coached him. And they're friends, and they've done a lot of training together. I just don't like it. I think this matchup makes a lot more sense. All right, on to the next fighter from this card, who was Yan Xiaonan. I think she had a great performance, really, really clean boxing. I don't think you put her right back in with a rematch with Zhang Weili, although she did, make it a good fight for herself. She had that knockdown against Weili and did pretty well, honestly. Clearly lost the fight, but she kind of held her own in there. I don't think you put her right back in. I think you put her against the obvious choice here, Vina Jandiroba. Vina was supposed to fight Tatiana Suarez for the number one contender. Tatiana Suarez always having health issues, unfortunately. She was years ago, we were talking about Tatiana Suarez was going to be the next champion. She's still undefeated. It's just very, very unfortunate that she's had these health issues. And it is unfortunate. She's had health issues her entire career, which is why she didn't wrestle in the Olympics back in the day. It's why she's had very, very long layoffs in between her UFC fights. I think this is the fight you make. Vina is on the rise. She's had a bunch of really good performances. I'm pretty sure she just submitted Amanda Lemos, or I don't know if it was a unanimous decision, or I'm pretty sure she submitted her. Either way, she beat Amanda Lemos. She should be fighting for a number one contender spot. Yan Xiaonan, she's the obvious matchup to make, just coming off a title fight loss to the champion and now coming off a really good win. I think you do this matchup for the number one contender. On to the next one. Carlos Ulberg, another really, really good performance. They keep putting him up in there against just power punchers that they know he's going to be able to evade with his footwork and his good counter striking and check hooks and all that. I think you put him against someone at the top now. I think it's time you give Ulberg a fight where if he wins it, we're talking about Ulberg fighting for the title next. And I think you put him against former champion Jan Blachowicz. I think this is a really, really good fight. Blachowicz is one of the most well-rounded guys in the entire division. He's got power in his hands, like we know. He's got really, really good kicks as well. His body kicks and his leg kicks, I think, could slow down Ulberg quite a bit. And he's someone who could potentially take Ulberg down and test his grappling. I don't think there's much more to be said. I think this is the best next matchup for Ulberg in terms of the trajectory of his career as well. If he beats Blachowicz, like I said, we're talking about Ulberg starting to fight for the title soon. Next fighter from the card, Jang Mingyang. This dude's on a roll. This dude, I think, has finished all his wins in the first round still. He's undefeated in the UFC. I think you give him a good fight next. And by good fight, I mean someone who UFC fans know. Someone who's been around for years. Someone who's a bit more well-rounded than the guys they've been putting him up against so far. I mean, it's impressive what he's been doing, but they've been putting him up against strikers. He knocked out Brenson Ribeiro in his debut, and now he knocked out Ozzy Diaz, who I believe took the fight on short notice. But he came up. He was a boxer, ready to scrap. But that's what they keep giving him. I want to see him go against someone who's a bit more well-rounded with a bit more UFC experience. Therefore, you put him against Modestas Bukauskas. I think this is a really, really good fight. Modestas Bukauskas has seen pretty much everything that you can see in the UFC. He's had, fights with really good strikers. He's had fights with really good grapplers. He's coming off a good win against Marcin Prachnio, where he got hurt at a couple times and then ended up coming back and getting the submission. Really, really good performance for Modestas Bukauskas in terms of his last fight. I think this is a fight that you make. Anyway, on to the next one. And this is going to be my last fight pick of the night. Loner Kavanagh with a really, really impressive performance, getting the better of Jose Ochoa in rounds 1 and 3. Really, really solid performance. Shows how technical he is on the feet. He did get his back taken at the end of round 2, and there was a rear naked choke pretty close. But man, I'm very impressed with Kavanagh. I think he could compete up there with the best in the division. I have an exciting matchup for him. Someone who just fought recently at the Sphere card. He got hurt, but battled through it. He's a super tough, gritty fighter with a really good grappling game, which is what I want to see for Loner Kavanagh next. I want to see him go up against a gritty guy who can take a lot of punches on the feet and get you down and dominate you on the ground like he did in his last fight. Ya tu sabe. Ronaldo Rodriguez. This is his next fight. Lazy Boy. I'm impressed with Lazy Boy in terms of his entertainment value. I'm impressed with his ability to grit down and win a fight no matter what's going on. I mean, some people might have thought Ode Osborne won that fight, but regardless, man, Lazy Boy, he's a very dangerous guy, especially on the ground, but has good striking as well. Not to the level of Loner Kavanagh, but this is what I want to see next for Loner Kavanagh. I want to see, because he's very impressive, and I think he can survive at the top of the division, but I want to see him face the guys that he needs to face first. I like when I see a guy come up. First off, in his debut, I think that's one of the hardest fights that he could have got. Jose Ochoa, another undefeated fighter with really, really good range management and a good ground game, and he got past that test. Rodriguez is more along the lines of someone who grappling is their strength. So that's what I want to see next for Loner Kavanagh. If he can beat Ronaldo Rodriguez, I think you put him up against someone maybe in the top 15 next. Flyweight is not super competitive at the moment, and Loner Kavanagh is young and hungry. I want to see him fight the top guys ASAP. Anyway, those are my picks. Let me know if they sucked. Put in the comments who you think should be next for some of these fighters from UFC Macau. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.